Hello, Ryan here, and welcome to Star Citizen Sunday. This is a weekly show which covers all of the news from the week just past. Be sure to subscribe if you like what you see, and let's get on with it. This week, we learn more about the major updates coming to cargo, like recovering unique items, physical inventory, and physical cargo, plus Alpha 320 has now gone live. So this week's Inside Star Citizen was part 2 of all of these upcoming cargo changes, with Star Citizen being a whole universe of players who have their own missions, goals, and ambitions. Cargo needs to be able to support every aspect of these goals, catering for all eventualities, and be dynamic enough to accommodate all of the players' needs at every level. Now, the cargo system is not just about running boxes from A to B, it affects so many areas of the game, from resource gathering, hauling, mercenary work, escorting, piracy, not to mention it's going to be a huge necessity for the economy and so much more. And in the future, cargo loading and unloading will not be instantaneous. Players will be interacting with these physical boxes themselves, moving them from location to location and loading them or unloading them onto their ships. Now, the manual process of loading your cargo, and we're not just talking about cargo boxes here, is that you can choose exactly how to place these items in your ship, finding the best fit for them. And the manual process is also dependable on the player's skill somewhat as well, as not everyone, I've noticed, is capable of moving items carefully around the cargo hold. So finding the best fit can take some consideration. And when we start getting things like physical damage, degradation and whatnot for almost every item, your ability to move these items will be quite important. I will talk more about physical loading in a second, but moving on to the physical inventory, right now in the verse we can press the I key in any landing zone or ship, and we are presented with the full inventory of anything and everything that we have in that location. Now, moving forwards, when it comes to storing items, we will have to physically interact with a cupboard or a locker or a hangar, and so that means when we want to get them back, we will need to physically go to that same location, that same cupboard or locker, to retrieve it. Now, this is going to be quite a change in the PU, and for many, it will feel like a bit of a backward step, as we won't just be able to, say, hover close to a landing zone and access all of our items. You will have to land, go to the physical hub or the physical hangar to get them back. But for me, this level of interaction and inventory organization has always been something that I look forwards to. Placing items in specific locations is something I actually really enjoy doing in games, but I get that many will find this tedious. But for Star Citizen to be Star Citizen, with them trying to physicalize pretty much everything, it will be great for many areas of the game. For example, looting or exploring derelicts. You will be checking the cupboards for interesting loot, or if you have just been in a crash and you've been rescued, you could return to your ship to recover a precious item that you made sure was stowed away in a specific physical location where looters might not think to check, which will be only possible with the physical inventory storage. It also lends into logistics big time, and for example, you could be in Pyro, you really need this box of items that you have left around Lorville or in a hangar somewhere. You could hire an NPC or a player to then transport those items for you to your location, which will then lead to more missions for players as well. Now, these inventory boxes will make the process of storing and attaining certain items much easier. You could load up various boxes with mission type equipment, like items you need for bounty hunting versus exploration or mining. Store those boxes in your freight platform, which is essentially your hangar's inventory, and then when you've had enough of doing one of them, you could go and grab the box and get all of your equipment for the next mission. It will also allow you to move items into boxes from your inventory to store them all in the same location, which will actually make the whole process much easier to retrieve than the system we have now, where everything is just clumped together. Now, for smaller items, they will be adding something called an item bank, which is to be used to store small items at landing zones without having to go to your hangar or your hab. So for example, at various convenient locations around the landing zone, there will be these somewhat secure boxes or lockers where you can place items that you can access quickly. Now, this will be great for storing your, say, everyday carry items perhaps, or items for a specific career type, giving you quick access or drop off when you need it. And for vehicles, you will also need to interact with various access points in those vehicles or on the exterior of those vehicles, like lockers, glove compartments, and container boxes, and each ship's amount of storage and where they're located will differ. Now next up they spoke about something called the hangar kiosk, and this is how we will interact with our hangar's inventory, using the kiosk to call things up that you have put into your inventory via the freight elevator. And this kiosk will also allow you to manage your entire inventory as well as your cargo, basically giving you the option to manage everything that you have in a convenient way. Now, all of the physical cargo and inventory changes are not just for the day-to-day of the verse of how we interact with things. There will also be a whole array of missions available that makes use of these systems. Companies requesting players to move various sized consignments of cargo from location to location will be one, so players with hauling ships won't need to invest their own money into the risks of trading in cargo. But of course, for those who do want to engage in trading, you will still be able to do so, and as the economy starts getting fleshed out further, having more ways of tracking prices and demands and fluctuations will be possible. Now, one major system that they are working on is something called unique item recovery, which allows us to get back our lost items like sub-items or real cash board items on our inventory. And one thing that they are working on is a lost and found for your hab. So for example, if your game crashes halfway through a mission, you can go back to your hab, restart the mission, and grab the items that you would have lost and continue on. Now, this isn't the only way that we will be able to recover lost items. This sounds like it is just an option to cater for when the game crashes, allowing you to pretty much pick up from where you left off without losing everything in the process. There will be other ways to get unique or sub-items or, items you've bought with real money back outside of crashing. But it won't be as simple as, oh, I've lost it again, let me go and grab a free item instantly from the vendor. There will be availability and times associated, I would think. Now finally, let's touch upon loading times, or unloading times. Cargo of any size won't load and unload instantly. There will be timers associated with them to give the impression that it is taking time to do this, and that will scale based on the size of your ship's cargo hold. And you will have the choice in most situations to do the loading yourself, bring friends along to help, or hire other NPCs or players to do it for you. Now, I often see a lot of contrasting complaints from both sides of many aspects in-game, some wanting to trade and take risks, others not wanting to at all, some players obviously not wanting to physically load and unload their ships, other players loving the idea of it, and what Star Citizen will offer in all areas of the game are options for you all to decide whether you want to or don't. If you want that risk-reward gameplay of buying and selling and trading, then you can do that. If you don't, then just take on the multi-box missions provided by other companies. If you don't want to physically load items onto your ship, don't do it. Pay NPCs or players who want that experience to do that for you. There will be something for everyone, and it will cater for everyone on the various scales. Of course, right now, in the verse, in the alpha as it stands today, it would and likely will be very boring on board of your ship while you're waiting for cargo to get loaded, but there will eventually be many things for players to do on board or off your ship while you wait. From jumping into a sim pod and playing some Arena Commander, managing your ship systems and tuning, fixing, replacing, or just simply checking that your components are in good working order, planning the route to ensure that you are as efficient as possible, factoring in potential stops for fuel, avoiding pirate hotspots or heavy traffic, playing games with friends as chess is not going to be the only game option on board your ships, spend time organising your equipment, listening to or watching the various Spectrum shows like live coverage of a Satterball game or a race that is going on in another system, or just read the Galactopedia. Not to mention, if you have a long loading timer, you could leave the ship, go shopping, do a mission around the local landing zone, socialise a lot more. There will be so much stuff to do that you will probably end up wishing you had a longer loading time process to do all this stuff. My point being is that this alpha currently only offers a glimpse at what the persistent universe will be like, and currently it is nothing like the finished product. But ultimately, there will be choices for everyone to make sure that you have fun. And with that said, that was the second part of the Inside Star Citizen talking about cargo changes, which actually start with 320 with the physicalized boxes of varying sizes and will continue to roll out over the course of development, bringing in more and more functionality to get it to where they want it to be. So also this week, the biggest news being that Alpha 320 has now gone live, and as usual, it isn't without its own issues. This was actually pushed out a little earlier than normal, as CIG are wanting to get the 320.1 patch into QA and the Evocati for release during CitizenCon, which certainly brought a few issues like inventory not loading being the biggest one. Now personally, I am actually having a great time on 320, aside from this inventory bug, which on certain days has affected the 2 accounts that I've been playing on, but I have found that when playing, it has felt very smooth and my performance has gone up in terms of FPS. Now I have noticed though on in-game chat and on social media that for many people 320 is pretty unplayable, so it does go to show that there seems to be a case-by-case issue. Some people are having a good time, others are not. Saying that though, a new patch has just released, I think it was last night, to fix many of these issues, including the inventory. So if you were having troubles with the initial patch of 320 going live, try downloading this latest patch and see if that is any better. Hopefully you are able to get in and play, as I have actually had my most consistent playtime in the Persistent Universe since I can remember, playing for an hour, 2 hours before any real issue comes along. Also, with the release of Alpha 320 brought the Hullsey and the Fury LX. Both are now on sale and both have had a Q&A. The roadmap was updated and the Squadron 42 monthly report was posted to Spectrum, both of which I have covered already in a dedicated video that are linked below. And this week's Star Citizen Live was a nice chill and chat with 2 members of the audio team talking about who they are, how they got into the industry and working with Star Citizen, and what they do for Star Citizen. Always a great show, learning more about the various developers and how to get into the industry, but not a great amount of information to learn about Star Citizen's development. And a big thank you to Dan, one of the audio team members, for watching my videos, mate. It is much appreciated, and thank you for all the work you do on the project. And finally, this week's lore post was not actually a Galactopedia update, as it was stated on Monday, but a Lawmakers Community Questions. So that brings us to the end of the show. If you do enjoy my content, please consider subscribing and hitting that like button. Also, I am able to do this thanks to my very generous patrons and channel members. If you appreciate what I do and would like to help make it even better from as little as $1 a month, all of the links are provided below.